half a loaf was better than no bread at all. The new Lord Forcombe had been left with the income from the capital his wife had brought with her marriage settlement, and which was settled on his children when he died. This brought in little more than £200 a year, and his only other source of income was the meagre rents from his farms and some better properties on his estate. The cottages, of which there were quite a number, were either occupied by pensioners or were in such a dilapidated state that only those who were otherwise destitute were willing to live in them. The lack of money affected his 3 children to the point of desperation. Jeremy was now 21, but he could not afford to enter a regiment, as his forebears had done, and he resented violently having to live at home with only old hobbledehoy horses to ride, and nothing to do from morning until night except catch fish from the river and shoot in the woods. This turned what had been an enjoyable sport into a monotonous necessity. For Mariota, it was different, because since they could only afford to keep one old couple to run the house, the rooms would have been inches thick in dust if she had not constituted herself housekeeper, housemaid, butler, footman, and valet to her father and brother, besides being at times a cook when anything special was required. Because she was practical and organised herself in what had to be done in such an efficient way, the family forgot that at nearly 19 years old she would, if their circumstances had been different, have been having a season in London, dancing at balls and receiving proposals of marriage from eligible bachelors. But there was no likelihood of anything ever happening while, as Jeremy said gloomily, they were buried in the country and looked more like turnips than ordinary people. The only member of the family who had less reason for grievance than her brother or elder sister was Lynn. Not yet 17, she was fortunate enough to be exactly the same age as one of their neighbours' daughters, and it was therefore arranged that she should share her lessons with her. Every day a carriage from the Grange collected her, and if it rained or they particularly wanted her to stay the night, she did so. Besides her other problems, Mariota worried about what would happen next year when Lynn was too old for lessons. She was lovely, so lovely that her sister could not help thinking that any young man who saw her would instantly go down on his knees and ask for her hand in marriage. But there were very few young men in their part of Worcestershire, and as Squire Fellows, whose daughter she had lessons with, was very strict about young girls being kept in the schoolroom until they were grown up, Lynn had so far not tasted the social life which Mariota longed for her to have. If Lynn was lovely with her fair hair, blue eyes, and pink and white complexion that made her look like a piece of Dresden china, Mariota was lovely too, but in a very different way. Her mother had once said, "Lynn is like a beautiful portrait by one of the great artists, with colours so vivid that it is difficult to think that anything could be more attractive. But you, my darling, are like one of the exquisite drawings by Leonardo da Vinci. For once somebody has looked at you, they want to go on looking, because there is so much to find beneath the surface." Mariota had not exactly understood this at the time, but sometimes she looked at herself in the mirror and remembered what her mother had said. She thought, with her large grey eyes and her hair that was so fair it seemed sometimes to be silver, she did, in fact, resemble some of the drawings she had seen in the books in the library. But she seldom had time to think about herself. When she rose in the morning, she twisted her long hair into a bun at the back of her head and hurried downstairs to start pulling back the curtains and opening the windows. Being practical, she had realised that it would be impossible to keep the whole house open without proper staff. She had therefore closed off the wings on each side of the centre block, which together formed the E shape in which the house had been built, as a tribute to Queen Elizabeth. But sometimes she would go into the low-ceilinged and beautiful rooms with their diamond-paned windows and look at the dust on the floor and at the pictures and the furniture shrouded by covers and feel that it was like the palace of the Sleeping Beauty, which would never again wake to life. Then, because it made her so depressed, she would go away, back to the